Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and prompted by some of the comments we got on yesterday's video about speed solving, I thought we might have a look at a puzzle from a real speed solving competition. So today's puzzle is by Akash Doulani, who's a brilliant constructor, featured on the channel a few times before, and this is from his competition called Quinze 2, which was on Logic Masters India back in August. Now I'll put a link under the video if you want to have a look at the whole competition, but this was one of the hardest puzzles in that test. It was, I think, the second hardest, and the points allocated to it meant that it was, for the world's best solvers, you would be looking at about a 10-minute solve for this puzzle. So if you fancy yourself as a speed demon, do give it a go. Let us know in the comments how you get on. We always look out for some of the quick times. By the way, the contest was won by Kota Morinishi, the three-time world Sudoku champion, and his time suggested he was around 7 minutes for this puzzle. So if anybody's beating that time, then it gets very, very interesting indeed. Now, before we get into the rules of this puzzle, you can see it's quite an arresting looking Sudoku. What have I got to tell you about? Well, our Kickstarter campaign for this book that we want to make is still going really, really well. We're heading up towards the next stretch goal now. I think we're about $5,000 short of the goal that's going to allow you guys to vote for 10 puzzles that you want to see in the book. So I am very excited about that one. I really hope we get there. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do. I'll try and put a card on the screen. Which way will it go? No, there. Sorry, I'm not very good at inverting myself when I look in the mirror. Now, the other thing is Scott Strosahl's Puzzle Hunt, which many of you have been enjoying, which appeared as our bonus content on Patreon at the start of October. Well, Mark and I have now finished our sort of magnum opus 5-video series going through that Puzzle Hunt. So do check that out. That's available for patrons now. Yeah, and we've gone through the puzzles in some detail, so hopefully that will be interesting to those of you who struggled. And there's nothing wrong with struggling on that set of puzzles, believe me, because some of them were viciously hard, especially the Sudoku, my goodness. Now, let's get back to Akash's puzzle. Let me read you the rules. We've got an interesting set of rules today. It's called Missing Arrow Sudoku. So normal Sudoku rules apply. Additionally, the grey lines represent incomplete arrows. The digit on one end of each line is the sum of the other digits on the same line. So the reason this is called Missing Arrow Sudoku is that normally in Arrow Sudoku, it tells us which side of the arrow is the head, i.e. which side is the big number that the other digits have to sum to. So if this was an 8, for example, we would know those 4 squares, and it had a circle. Normally there's a circle on the arrow to indicate it's the head of the arrow, and then we'd know those 4 squares have to add up to 8. Here we don't know which side of the arrow is the total we're heading for, so we're going to have to work that out. Do have a go at this. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play. Fantastic. Let's get cracking and see how we go. My eyes are instantly drawn to this arrow, which is the longest arrow. Right, and we can do... there's 2 things going on with this arrow. The first thing to appreciate is that these 3 squares are all in the same box. So their minimum is not, you can't put 3 1s along these 3 cells. The minimum I can make those 3 cells would be 1, 2, and 3. So that already gives us 6 on this arrow. Now imagine this was the head of the arrow, just for a moment. We can instantly see this is broken now, because what's the minimum I can make those 2 cells? Well, they can't be the same digit again, so the minimum I could make those 2 cells would be 1 and 2. And that means we've already got to 9 before we've even counted this one, and we can't put 0 in this square. So similarly, this square can't be a 10. So in fact, we're able to deduce, I think, quite quickly that that square must be the head of this arrow. Let's get rid of the 1, 2 pencil marks. And yeah, and let's think about what this means. We've got 6 minimum in these squares and 3 more cells to come. Well, this can't be bigger than 9, so that must be 9, and these 3 squares all must be 1, and this can't be 1, therefore, by Sudoku, and we get off to a very nice start. Yeah, we get off to a very nice start and a very interesting. These ones immediately catch my eye because these ones are seeing lots and lots of the cells. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful idea, actually. Let's imagine this is the head of this arrow. Well, what would the total be here? Well, those two squares, because they can't include a 1, would have a minimum value of 2 and 3, which is 5. This one sees that square, so this has got a minimum value of 2. This one sees that square, minimum value of 2. Now if we add these minimums up, we get to 9, which we can't put here by Sudoku. So this is not the head of this arrow. This must be the head of the arrow, and let's get rid of the 2 in it therefore. So we've already got a minimum of 7. Okay, so this one we don't know, we can't resolve. This square could be a 1 or a 2, but you can see if we just take the bare minimums on each position, we get to 8 already. So this is an 8 or a 9, and this square must be a 2 or a 3. This square could be a 4, I suppose. It's possible this is a 2-4 pair, and this must be a 1 or a 2, and exactly one of these digits could be higher than its bare minimum. Or they could all be their bare minimums, and this could be 8. So we've done... and the other thing to note is there must always be a 2 in those squares. If there isn't a 2 in one of those squares, this would be a 3-4 pair, and it would break again. Okay, I can't see anything else there, so I'm going to look at this other big arrow. Let's look at this one, see what this is telling us. And again, it feels to me instantly like putting the head of the arrow there is going to be a problem, because of this 1 down here would make this a minimum of 2 and 3. Let's check it out. If that's 2 and 3, oh, that's interesting. If that's 2 and 3, that can't be 1 because of this 1. So this would have to be a 2 or 3, this would have to be 1 or 2, and that gets to 10 again, doesn't it? It does. So this is not the head of the arrow. And the thing I was missing instantly there was that this 1 is, and this one, in fact, are impacting on the possibility of this being a 1. So let's get rid of these pencil marks and get rid of the colour here. We know that the head of the arrow must be that one. This has got a minimum value of 2. This has got a minimum value of 2. Those two have got a minimum value of 1 and 2, I think. And this has got a minimum value of 1. So what have we got? We've got 8 again. So this one is 8 or 9 again. So again, we've got exactly 1 degree of freedom. One of these squares could be higher than its bare minimum, or to put that another way, this pair would have a maximum value of 4. We could make them a 1-3 pair, which does mean there must be a 1 in one of those two squares. This could be 2 or 3. That could be 2 or 3. We could include a 3 here, and that could be a 2. But no. Now, this is a very common trick with arrow Sudoku, and it's very worthwhile trying to think about the linkages between the arrows. Look at this arrow and look at this arrow. Now we know we've got to be really careful with both of these arrows to ensure that we only increase exactly 1 cell on the arrow by exactly 1. So we can't increase 2 of the cells on the arrow by their minimum. So think about this square. If this square is 2, it increases this spot on this arrow from its minimum by 1, but it also means that these two squares can't be a 1-2 pair. They have to be a 1-3 pair now, and that means I think we're going to get to 10, because we get 7 in those squares, 8 here, 9, 10. We can't put 10 in a Sudoku. So straight away, we know this isn't a 2. This must be a 3. That means this is a 1-2 pair. This now is a 2. This 3 has used up our degree of freedom along this arrow. So this must be a 2, 3 pair now, otherwise we're going to get to 10 again. That must be a 1. So we've now got 6, 7, 8, 9. This is a 9. This one, oh look, this 1 consumes the degree of freedom on this arrow. So this is now a 2. This must be a 2, otherwise we'll get to 10 again. This is a 9, so there's lots of 9s appearing. That square's not a 2 anymore. One of those two squares must be a 9. And I'm not going as fast as Kota Morinishi. Kota Morinishi had finished by now, but it's not going too badly. We must be able to do more than this. Oh, 2 must be in one of those two squares at the bottom by Sudoku, look. No, sorry, I'm not. This is one of those occasions when I'm quite sure I'm missing the absolute obvious, and it's very annoying. Sorry. I'll tell you what's interesting though. This one. That's a 1, isn't it? That's interesting. But actually, that's not what I was looking at. I was looking at this arrow and this 1 on the arrow. Because if this is the head of the arrow, I've got a problem. This has got to be a 2, 3 pair minimum. That's 5. This has got to be at least 4. This has got to be 9. And it can't be 9 by Sudoku. So this is not the head of the arrow. But the other thing that's interesting about this whole situation is once this isn't the head of the arrow and this is the head of the arrow, those squares now can't include a 1. So the absolute minimum I can make these 3 squares is 2, 3 and 4, which happen to add up to our old friend the 9. Now in the middle box you can never put a 9 halfway along an arrow, because then the implication is that the sum you're heading to is above 9, which it can't be. So that must be 9. One of those two must be the head of an arrow then. This 2, 3, 4. So 2. That fixes where the 2 goes in box 9. So let's put it in. Another interesting one. Look, 9's here and here. Look at the effect they have on box 9. We can never put a 9 partially along an arrow. We've already said that. So this must be the 9. Therefore, this must be the 9. And it's so tightly constructed, isn't it? It's just very, very smooth solving. Very logical. Really, really enjoyable. That square is a little bit interesting, because that square has a minimum value of 4. Look, it can't be 1, 2 or 3 because they've already gone in the box. This square, that can be 3, but it cannot be 1 or 2. And this square can't be 2 because of this 2. And if this was 3, we'd know that from the other cells we'd get to at least 10. So this must be 1. These two have to add up. These two have to add up to 8. So we could have 4 here, that would be possible, and 4 here, or 3 here and 5 here. One of those things must be true. 1 must sit at the bottom of the grid down there. Look, oh no, it actually gets resolved by this 1, because if we look along row 5 of the grid, we have a 2 here, a 3 here. Therefore, this square can't be a 3 anymore. So we can't have 3, 5 as an option. This is 4, this is 4, this is 1, this is 2, and we are cooking with gas here. 4 goes into one of those two squares. 4 by Sudoku must go here, which is quite a big digit on this arrow already. Especially, actually, this 2's doing more work. Let me just finish off the work this 2's doing. 1 must be in one of these two squares. I'm just looking at this arrow. Yeah, because if this is the head of this arrow, what's the minimum I can put into that square? Well, it's 3. the minimum I can put into this square is also 3. So the minimum arrow total here would be 10. So this is not the head of the arrow. The head of the arrow must be there. This square can be a 3. And this square can be a 1. And it must be a 1. Otherwise it's a 3. And then we get to 10 again. So this is 1. This is 1. This can't add to 9 because of this 9. And it can't add to less than 8 because this needs to be a 3, which is perfect. So that finishes this off. Where does 3 go by Sudoku in box 6 with these 3s and that 3? I mean, this is a 3, which is on an arrow. This can't be a 1-2 pair, so this must be a head of an arrow. That's a head of an arrow. Let's make sure I actually label all the heads of arrows. Now, let's have a think about this. So this cannot be 9. And this cannot be less than 5. So this is 8. And this is 5. So this is 8 by Sudoku. Look, just using that 8, I could have done that before. 8 must be in one of those two cells. These two squares have got to be 6 and 7. Which means that square's a 5 to complete column 9. These two squares are 6 and 7 to complete box 6. 8. And we've got to finish off... Oh, we've got a 2-cell arrow. Oh, well that means these two digits are basically the same number. So that's probably just for disambiguation towards the end, I would think. I would be surprised if we can use that before we've got more digits. So we've got this arrow and this, well, this arrow must be more restricted because it can't include a 1 or a 2. In fact, the minimum value of that square looks like it's 4. The minimum value of this square is 3. The minimum value of that square is 4, and we can't repeat 4 in the box. So if this was the head of the arrow, we'd have to put a 4-5 pair in here minimum, and that would have to be a 9, which it can't be. So this is the head of the arrow, and this can't be an 8 or a 9, so this has to be 7 because the minimum I can make those two add up to is 7. It's just beautiful. That gives us the 8 using our pencil marks. This must be 7. These two squares are 5 and 6 in some order. Where does 8 go? In box 4. This 8 and this 8 interplay and force a 4-8 pair in the box, which means these squares are 5, 6 and 7 again. That can't be 5, so there must be a 5 up here by Sudoku. That can't be 7. And probably where we're having to get to here is to use... we're going to have to use this arrow, I think. Probably very soon. Just trying to see if I can do anything Sudoku related. Sort of feel like I should be able to because we've got so many digits in the grid. 8, look, has to be in one of those two squares by Sudoku. I'm not seeing it. Right, let's come over here then and let's think about this one. Let's put the minimums in again. So the minimum value of that square is useless. That can be a 2. Can't be a 3. So this is 2 or 4 or a higher digit, but I'm just trying to keep track of minimums. This one's much better. This can't be 1, 2, 3 or 4. That's got to be at least 5. This is perfect. Okay, this one can't be 1, 2 or 3. So this has to be at least 4. Now that means if that's the head of the arrow, we get to 9, which this can't be because of the 9 in row 1 again. So this must be the head of the arrow. Let's put that in. We know it must be at least equal to 7, which it can't be. So this must be 8 or 9. And okay, is that helpful? I feel like it might be. Oh, 7 here, that's giving me a 7 at the bottom. Look, I was just studying that. That gives, actually, that completes all of this. This square, these squares are 3 and 4 now, which we can do. 4 goes here by Sudoku. 3, 4 pair here gives us a 2 here. And again, we're on a flurry of activity. We need 5, 6, and 7. This must be 6 by Sudoku. This is a 5, 7 pair. Is the 6 useful? Not quite. It's nearly useful. 6 goes in one of those 2 cells. So 5, 7. 5, 7, 8. Yeah, where does 8 go in column 5? It can only go there because there's a 4, 8 pair there. So this square is a 5 or a 7. I think this 8 is not going to be very helpful though, actually. That square's a 5, 6 or 7. There's loads of 5, 6s and 7s everywhere. In fact, there's loads. These are 5, 6 and 7 as well. 6 and 7. This square here has to be a 5. That can't be a 5. That's got to be a 6 or a 7. Okay, this 6 here is telling us this is a 5. 2, 3. Oh, that square's restricted. Look, there's a 2 and a 4 in this row, which are not appearing in column 1 yet. So this is an 8, 9. Oh, that's an 8, 9 pair. So this square is a 4. This square is an 8. This square is a 2. This square, look, is a 4 by Sudoku now. That's these 4s interacting. That fixes the 3 and the 4 over on the right-hand side. That makes this square a 3. And we must be close to finishing. We've got the whole 5, 6, 7 thing going on over here. Oh, this square is a 6 or a 7 now. And therefore its friend must also be a 6 or a 7 along the 2-cell arrow, which creates a 5, 6, 7 triple in box 2 and makes this one an 8. This 8 disambiguates the 8 and the 9, which is going to give us this square. That's a beautiful finish. A beautiful finish. So this is a 7 now to make this arrow work. That fixes the 6. We know therefore that must be a 6. We get 5, 7 pair there. This square is a 5 by Sudoku just to complete this box. That gives us the 5 and the 7. This should be an 8. This should be a 9. This should be a 5. This is a 6, 7 pair. Why did I expect anything else? And presumably this 6, 7 here is going to somehow trail along into the right-hand side of the grid. Let us see. So 6, 7. 6, 7, 7, 6, 7, 7, 5, 5, 6, check. Hopefully that says it's good. It does. Beautiful. Just a really enjoyable, smooth puzzle with some really clever logic. And of course, don't give me any grief for not knowing which of these is the head. I still don't know. You pays your money, you takes your choice. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Let me know in the comments your times, of course, and do check out the Kickstarter. Thanks for watching. Back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.